What's up, everybody? These are truly the worst cases to talk about. I feel like we talk about way too many of them because way too many of them happen. But on today's video, we are going to break down the charges for the shooter in Georgia, for his father, how it happened, why it happened, if it's appropriate. Is this a bridge too far? Is it a slippery slope? Is this what we want as a society? We're going to do a bunch of polls to today's video. We're going to discuss things, philosophically, but also focusing legally on what's happening and what's going to happen as this case progresses and maybe into the future if this happens again, because I don't want to say when, even though that's what it feels like in today's day and age. So will you guys get ready? Let's be respectful in the chat. Let's do the best we can to discuss these topics and learn through these tragedies as much as we can and not turn it into politics or anything else. But let's get into it. So on today's video, we're going to take a look at a few things. We are going to listen to the presser about the shooter's dad getting arrested and what he's charged with, why they have him connected to this case and connected to criminal charges, what they've learned, what they know, at least for what they're saying in the presser and what they're not saying in the presser. And then we have two kind of short clips of their arraignments where the shooter and his dad separately are read the charges against them and they're explained what the possible penalties are for those charges. So we're going to listen to the judge explain that to them. Then we're actually going to look at those charges and the statute on the charges specifically that his dad is charged with, because that's kind of the interesting legal aspect to this. We're going to do some polls throughout. And lastly, we're going to finish with an article, which is some unsubstantiated, as far as I know, right? It's some details trickling out. Seems like it's official. We're going to discuss it and discuss how it affects this case specifically in the totality of this case based on some history with this shooter and his dad. So let's start here with the presser where we'll get some details. And if you don't know what this case is about, I'll try to leave names out of it as much as I can. No fame or fortune should come to people like this. But we do need to learn about it. We obviously need to learn how to prevent it and stop it and what we can do as a nation and what's appropriate and not overreaching or too far, slippery slope, but also creating the change that we need. But there was another school shooting in Georgia, 4 killed. I think it was 8 or 9 injured, 2 students, 2 adults. And those what the charges are stemming from. And we'll learn more about it as we watch and listen to these interviews.
We do have the director there of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, also the Barrow County Sheriff. Let's listen.
We wanted to come back and update you on the progress of the case this evening. I appreciate you being here. In coordination with the District Attorney Brad Smith, the GBI has arrested Colin Gray, age 54, in connection to the shooting here at Appalachia High School. Colin is Colt Gray's father that was arrested yesterday. He is charged with the following: 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of...
If that was it, just the 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, it would be, very similar to the Crumbleys. But there's more in this case, and we'll talk about how Georgia law maybe opens the door for certain different things. But so here's exactly, so I'm going to make one comment about it. Missy B said it is politics, no way around it. I couldn't disagree more. I completely, vehemently, 100% disagree that it is politics and there's no way around it. And that's one of the reasons why I hate politics, is these things do not have to be political. They don't have to be on one side or the other. There can be right and wrong. And I think we can know that a lot of people in Washington are in it for themselves, whoever it may be on both sides of the aisle. And we as a people and a society need to realize that we got to worry about ourselves. And we got to figure out the right way to do things and then vote that way, as opposed to one party or the other, hating each other, hating one person or another person, or what one political party stands for versus another. In my opinion, nothing has to be political. Every decision, everything we do should be about right and wrong, what's best for society and best for people, and how we create a betterment of people in society. And it's not really done through politics, in my opinion. That's all I'm going to say about politics. I don't want to talk about politics. So we knew, first thing popped in my head, obviously Crumbly, probably a lot of you guys as well. Crumbly, if you followed that with me, in those trials, and the shooter in Michigan's parents were also convicted of involuntary manslaughter. I think they were sentenced to 15 years. I can't remember what it is, long time in jail, but this is going a step further. This is going to be much more than that case because he doesn't stop at 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter.
Charged with the following: 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of second-degree murder, and 8 counts of cruelty to children. Mr. Gray,
2 counts of second-degree M and 8 counts of cruelty to children. And when we discuss, we're going to look at the statute for cruelty to children and the statute for second-degree M/felony murder, which they're going to discuss kind of in 2 different ways when we get to the arraignment. But there's more than just involuntary manslaughter in this case, and we'll talk about why.
these charges stem from Mr. Gray knowingly allowing his son, Colt, to possess a weapon.
Knowingly, the father knowingly allowing his son to possess a weapon. Okay, and this is the important stuff. That's why I'm pausing and highlighting it. These are the important details. These are going to be the important facts, because my opinion is this can be appropriate, charging parents, but is not always appropriate, which is why it's a case-by-case basis and depends on the set of circumstances, right? And we've talked about throughout the Cruelty case, we talked about a million gang members driving cars. What if it's a knife? What if they steal the firearm? There's a million different scenarios I think that could go either way. But what we're going to do is apply these facts, these set of circumstances, to what the law is in this case and see where we think this one is going.
This is a very difficult time, as we know, for students and parents. And so many, I know, of students and parents here in this county and around this state are afraid. You all have likely seen reports of incidents of other students making threats today at various schools around our state. In each of these incidents, police, law enforcement took charges, they made arrests, acted very swiftly, as we take incidents like this very seriously across the state. This is a time for all of us as a community and a state to come together and remain vigilant. Students must be supported and encouraged here in this community and across the state to contact a member of their school faculty with any and all concerns of suspicious activity that they may see. Local, state, and federal law enforcement will continue to work together around the clock in relation to this incident here and any other incidents that come up around this state that raise concern to the safety of our students, faculty, and citizens here in the state of Georgia. Additionally, Colt Gray, that was arrested yesterday for this incident, has now been charged with 4 counts of felony murder. And again, we will continue to work tirelessly to complete this investigation as we move forward. I will go ahead and mention to you, and as I say sometimes, I'm going to go ahead and apologize to you. As y'all all know, that this is a murder investigation. It is a very serious investigation, one that we take serious, one that we will continue to diligently work on and be very thorough with it, with the GBI and our local partners here. So you'll have to forgive us if we don't answer a lot of the questions that you ask. I know you have many.
So he's apologizing because, as any investigation like this, we know some of the details can't come out. I appreciate that. Usually he's giving enough to let us know what's going on, but it's not a situation where he's just going to spill his guts and we're going to find out every single detail about the case. It's not how it works right now. And frankly, we've seen in Koberger and other cases how the first press conference, Alec Baldwin, the first press conference, if you have some major missteps, it could become an issue in the future. So I think he's being careful. I think he's playing it a little bit safe, which is, what I would expect and hope for in somebody in his situation, but at least telling us kind of what's going on, right? Dr. Bob said common sense and teaching kids to not do this. Agreed. Ezekiel said right and wrong, thus the law. Should never be about politics. Unfortunately, some have made that not the case. How do we get back to what is supposed to be? Honestly, the only way I think we get back to how it's supposed to be is people making their voices heard, for people not just listening to what one person says or what one party says, not falling in line, not assuming that just because somebody thinks one thing, that they agree with everything else somebody else says, that because they vote one way, it means they agree with everything that person they vote for, forcing politicians to not just fall in line with everything the party says. You can believe this from over here and that from over there. But again, I think that's a lot easier said than done. I'm not saying I have the answers. Trust me. Nicole, thank you so much for gifting 50 memberships. That's awesome. 50 new people get to join this membership. It's so fun. It's so entertaining and educational here to hang out. And these are the worst, most difficult topics to talk about. I try not to be in a bad mood when I talk about it. I don't know why it's just such a downer. But I really think we can learn. And I respect you guys a lot in your opinion. And I appreciate what you have to say. And again, that's why we're going to do some polls so we can kind of get a feeling just for the people that come and watch this and hang out here in the live stream where they're at with this. And again, I want to try to keep it out of politics as much as possible. I know that's going to come into play. I'm not naive to that. but we're going to discuss it, more factually and legally speaking here.
We wish we could answer many of them for you, but we still obviously want to maintain the integrity of this investigation because it has a long way to go for it to be finished. Again, I also want to remind everyone that we need to continue to pray and support the victims that were involved here, the school teachers, the faculty, the students, obviously those that lost their lives, their families, and those that were injured. So I'd like to call on the sheriff to come and give you a brief update on the status of those that were injured from yesterday's event. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Hosey. As Director Hosey said, I'd like to say that obviously we're lifting up those families. Our hearts are hurting for them, our kids, our students, our teachers. But the 9 injured, I am very happy to say will make a full recovery. And that's a testament to the response that we had, in my opinion, the response that medical staff responded with, in my opinion. And we're very happy to say that they will make a full recovery after that response. Again, please lift up our community. Please keep these children, these teachers. We call them teachers, but I call them heroes. We met with them today. Emotions are very high, obviously, but we told them that we love them. We love our teachers and what they do. And we're very happy at the fact that they stood in the gap between evil to protect their children. And we want to include them in the lives that were saved as well yesterday. But I wanted to report
literal goosebumps as he says it. It could be kind of trite to say, oh, these people, everybody's a hero. Everybody's a hero at the end of the day. But when you really think about it and explain it and what teachers do and what good teachers do, there's no really other way to feel or explain it. So I appreciated that comment.
Report to you that all 9 people that are injured will expect to make a full recovery. Thank you.
Are they still in the hospital?
Several of them are still in the hospital. Some have been released.
And Director, can you please explain, did the father actually give the gun to the suspect?
Well, I'm gonna leave it as how I mentioned it
Did the father actually give him the gun? I think was the question.
in the release, that he knowingly allowed him to possess the weapon.
Director, can you tell us about how the arrest?
Knowingly allowed him to possess the weapon. So he's not saying he bought it for him. He's not saying it was a gift for him at this point. He's not saying it was his. He's not saying it was the kid's responsibility. He's not saying the kid had the access and the decision-making to do this or that. He's not saying any of that, right? So he's leaving all that out at this point. Rebecca, amen, Peter. That's why you're the best. I appreciate it, Rebecca. And again, I know that throughout this video, we're going to talk about this for an hour, right? This is such a difficult topic. There's no way everything I'm going to say is going to be perfect. There's no way everything I'm going to say is going to be right. I'm sure I'm going to say something that offends somebody or that somebody disagrees with. I'm not trying to offend anybody on purpose. I'm trying to speak truth and law and facts and discussion and thought points, right? And to try to breed discussion and interesting conversation between you guys and me. And so it's not going to be perfect. And I understand that. And so I'm just doing my best to handle it with care and respect, and to respect everybody's opinion, even if we disagree. And that's what I ask for, the same in the chat with people. Because even if we disagree, I don't hate you. I want to learn why you think the way you think you do. And that's really what it comes down to. And so one of the things, one of the poll questions I want to ask, I didn't give these to Kelsey ahead of time, so it may take a second for them to go. But the first poll I want to put up there is based on him saying these charges are in direct connection with him knowingly allowing his 14-year-old to possess the weapon. Okay. And the question I want to know, just from your perspective, should it be illegal to allow a minor to possess a firearm? Do you think it should be illegal to allow a minor to possess a firearm? Now, there are all sorts of details with the parent, without the parent, at the shooting range, whatever. Let's assume it is their firearm. Okay. Their firearm. Because we're going to ask a couple different questions with a couple different qualifications just to try to, get to the bottom of what you guys are thinking and feeling. But I should have done, Kelsey, I don't know if you probably haven't posted it yet. Should it be illegal to buy a minor a firearm that's their firearm? To buy a minor a firearm that's their firearm. Let's start with that. We'll get to possessing maybe later.
Happened today? Did you turn himself in? Did you guys make contact with them? How did that go with investigators this afternoon?
I'm honestly not familiar with the details. All I can tell you is that he is in custody at this time.
And are you likely anyone else will be arrested in this case?
It's difficult to say at this point in time. We're obviously still investigating this, following all leads, all evidence, and we'll set to see where it takes us as we progress forward. The arrest was made when we had the probable cause to make the arrest.
Do we know when his first court appearance will be?
I'm not sure. No, ma'am.
Did the dad bring him to school?
I'm not sure about that either. I'm sorry.
Are you able to explain the charges and how he has more charges than suspected?
Not in great detail. The biggest thing, as I mentioned earlier, is that he is in custody at this point in time. His charges are directly connected with the actions of his son and allowing him to possess.
His charges are directly connected to the actions of his son. Even he's saying to the actions of his son, right? And that's important to the legal discussion and allowing him to possess the firearm.
That's a weapon.
Sheriff, will he be housed in your facility? Is that where he'll be held? How's that look?
He'll be held in the Barrow County Detention Center.
Will his mugshot be available tonight, or will it take some time until tomorrow?
It depends on how long it takes us to book him, but if it's available, we can get that to y'all tonight.
Sheriff,
If not tomorrow.
You said some good news that some have been released. Do you know the numbers of patients that are released, victims?
I don't want to speak to that because I don't know the exact number, but I know that I want to just report that all 9 would make a full recovery and be able to leave the hospital.
Sheriff, there were 9 people that were injured. Do we know if they are mostly students, maybe teachers or staff, or are they just...
I believe 2 were adult teachers, and the rest, which would be 7, would be students.
Director, can you tell me whether there's precedent for charges like this?
I'm sorry.
Can you explain whether there's precedent in the state of Georgia as far as the GBI is concerned for the father or
Is there precedent for this? She's asking.
parent charged with the crime?
I don't have any details on any history of it, but I would venture to say it's not something new.
Can you tell us about the evidence that led to these charges?
No, ma'am. That's part of the ongoing investigation. I apologize.
Sheriff, after all this time with him being able to talk with investigators, you were pretty strong yesterday. We're saying this was an evil act. It's very sad, obviously, but looking back at what the 14-year-old's been able to say to investigators over the last 24 hours, can you reflect on just what this community is facing after what he allegedly did at the scene?
What we're facing, heartbreak. We're heartbroken. A young person brought a gun into a school, committed an evil act, and he took lives, and he injured many other people, not only physically, but mentally. But I'm proud of Barrow County. I'm proud of our superintendent. I'm proud of these teachers. I'm proud of these schools, and I'm proud of where I live. And we'll get past this. You see behind me, up here on the hill, we got a vigil going on at our flagpole. I welcome you to go see those kids and those young people that are hurting.
Director, can you please explain whether you're still expecting the charges?
I think I answered that earlier. Our investigation is still ongoing. So we'll see where things go with our investigation. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much. That's all we have.
All right. So that was the initial presser. And about 79, 80% of people think, yes, it should be illegal to buy a firearm for a minor. I agree with Ray Asun. A handgun is different than an AR. So that's why the next question, I want to see if this percentage changes at all. Should it be illegal to, and Kelsey, this will be the next poll, should it be illegal to allow a minor to possess an AR for any reason, for training, for hunting, for gun range, for whatever reasons? And I got to be honest with you, I have a handgun for home protection, don't have an AR, never shot an AR. I've never been hunting before. I don't know a lot about firearms, so I don't know like which ones are used for what. But for any reason, should it be illegal to allow a minor to possess an AR? Do your best with the wording, Kelsey. Whatever it comes up as, we'll talk about it and see if the percentage changes at all. Cheryl said, I can't say I feel bad for the dad here. The FBI talked to him about his son earlier in the year and said, okay, so I'm going to hold this comment, Cheryl, because I do want to talk about that more. Rebecca said, well said. That's why we all have mad respect for you, Peter. That is why your channel and chat are the best. I would agree with the chat part for sure. Caitlin, I was back and forth on the Crumblies, but if he presented facts here end up being true, dad deserves jail time. Again, we're going to talk about some of those presented facts in a little bit. Maria, thank you, Peter, for your grace and the way that you have your channel. It's the best channel. Thank you so much, Maria. And again, I try to treat other people like I want to be treated, so you got to give me grace too, right? Parents need to use common sense. Guns are never the answer. Why would any parent think it's okay to buy a minor a firearm of any type? And again, so this is where sometimes I, get my own brain, but I also try to think of how other people feel and think and stand in other people's shoes, right? I could never imagine buying any of my kids firearms, right? Or anyone, period. I can't imagine a situation where I'd want to buy somebody a firearm. If my, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old wanted an AR-15, I'd be like, something's up. That's weird. Why do you want that, right? That's me. But different communities, different people have different hobbies. And, I know some fathers that build firearms with their sons, or again, hunting, range, firearm safety, personal protection, home protection, all of that stuff I understand and I think is important too. So I think that there's a way to balance and think about and talk about all this stuff. Even if I don't personally do something myself, I want to try to take everybody's position and view into account and try to find the best thing to make things as safe as possible, obviously for our kids in schools, as we're focusing on with this case. I was originally against prosecutions of parents, but now I feel that maybe this is what it's going to take to get people to lock up their guns. And so the locking up your guns is going to be a question of a future poll. Jimmy Danielle, one opt partisan equals supporting a party versus nonpartisan. The death penalty doesn't deter crime. Why would charging the parents for school shootings deter them buying guns for their kids? So Nick, this is a great point. And I also take it a step further. Is this really going to deter kids from still finding a way to commit these evil acts if they're evil kids? Right? Or is it, are we roping in or throwing the net and just catching the parents too, if the parents shouldn't have culpability? Now, that's why I say it's a case-by-case basis, because I do think every case and every situation is very differently. So should it be illegal for a minor to have an AR-15? It went up about 5%. So from firearm period to AR-15, it went from about 80 to 85% of people that think it should be illegal. So there's a difference, at least as far as our chat is concerned. All right. Next, we are going to take a look at what the actual shooter is charged with, and then we're going to compare that to what his father has been charged with.
Thank you. Please be seated. And good morning, everyone. My name is Curry Mingledorf. I'm assigned to preside over this morning's proceedings. We're here for a limited purpose this morning. I do want to note for everyone's benefit that there is, as everyone certainly is aware, considerable interest in what has occurred in our community in the last several days. For that reason, the court has seen fit under Rule 22 of the Uniform Superior Court rules to allow media outlets to record some of these proceedings. However, under those rules, the court has set in place certain limitations, and I just want everyone to know that the media has been informed of that, and I'm confident that they will comply with that. But otherwise, there is to be no filming or recording by any members of the public or any other individual other than those authorized.
So there will be cameras because of the public interest. He is allowing it. So Anne brings up a good point. So a 16-year-old who's gone hunting with their family for years can no longer go. They have shot deer that fed their family last year. Now it's illegal. No. Should it be illegal for unsupervised underage use? Yes. Okay. So I think most people would have a problem with that second part, or I mean, would agree with you on that second part and would think it should be illegal. I'm just trying to figure out, right, like where people's minds go, especially when something like this happens. And again, obviously we're not making any laws here today. I just am interested in what you guys think. It's a cross-section of society of, 6,000 people in here just talking together, all different, racial, ethnic, political, religious, national backgrounds all in here. Like I see people from all over the world literally watching and taking part in the chat. So I love to get your guys' opinion on this stuff. And you guys are also potential jurors in the places that you live. So this case could come in front of you. You could be the ultimate decision maker and finder of fact. So I value your opinion. And I think that this is kind of how laws get made, and is we figure out, yes, this, but not that. Where do we draw the lines? We can draw lines in the law, right? Certain things can be legal, certain things can be illegal. So Kelsey, let's go to our third poll question. I hope you guys are ready to answer a lot of polls. Should it be illegal to not have a firearm under lock and key? Should it be illegal to not have a firearm under lock and key? And these are imperfect. I'm kind of coming up with them on the fly off the top of my head based on a lot of your comments. So I appreciate the comments. Keep them coming. But I just kind of want to see where you guys are, where you feel, where you fit in, where the lines should be drawn. Because honestly, I find myself vacillating on where lines should be drawn, because I am a big proponent of the Constitution and rights and freedom. And I don't want any of that to be stepped on. I don't want any slippery slopes, but I don't want a barbaric society. I don't want the purge. I don't want, I want protections, but I also don't necessarily think, government and politicians are the ones that want to protect us. So I want to know where we feel as a society and as people, where protection should be, and how we can protect each other, because it's definitely a combination, right? It's not just a weapon that causes all the problems. And I do think that certain weapons allow you to cause more problems than other weapons. So I think it's a conversation that needs to be had, and had hopefully in ways that we can discuss it together. So we'll see what the next poll says, but let's listen to hear what the shooter's charged with.
Specifically by the court in its signed ruling. Are we ready, counsel, to begin and bring the defendant in?
State's ready, Your Honor.
My name's Curry Mingledorf. I'm assigned to preside over this morning's proceedings. Mr. Gray, I do need to inquire as to whether you're able to read and write the English language.
Yes, sir.
All right. I also want to inform you, I want to ask you, do you understand that you have the right to be represented by an attorney in these proceedings?
Yes, sir.
And you are in fact represented today, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Zane Harmon, you're here on behalf of this defendant, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And you understand that you have the right to be continuously represented throughout this proceeding. And if you cannot afford to hire counsel, then this court is obligated under the Constitution to provide counsel for you without cost to you. All right. I am going to inform you of a few other matters, and I'm not going to ask you anything, just inform you. So one is, I want to make sure that you are aware that you have the right to remain silent. You don't have to say anything at all. And it's important to understand that, because anything you might say could be used against you at further proceedings associated with your case. I want to inform you of the charges that you currently face. In essence, you're charged with 4 counts of felony murder, as outlined in the state warrants that have been issued against you. I want to make
And we're going to take a look at that statute in a little bit.
you aware that the maximum penalty for felony murder, so for each count, the maximum penalty is that you could be punishable by death, by imprisonment for life, without parole, or by imprisonment for life, with the possibility of parole. If you have any questions about these charges, then I would urge you to discuss those with your attorney. I would invite you, Mr. Harmon, to inform the court as to whether there's a request for bond at this time.
At this time, Your Honor, there is not a request for bond. We will file the appropriate motions if that becomes necessary.
All right. An indictment by the grand jury for most felony offenses or accusations, you have the right to receive an indictment for these offenses. And I assume Mr. Brad Smith is here on behalf of the DA's office, or he is our district attorney, and he's accompanied by Ms. Patricia Brooks, who is his chief assistant. A preliminary hearing, you'll have the right also to a preliminary hearing, unless you make a bond, which of course at this point there's no bond being requested, or unless you waive such a hearing. You have the right to a speedy and public trial by a judge or a jury. You have the right to confront and cross-examine all witnesses. You have the right to call witnesses on your own behalf and testify in your own defense if you so choose. As you sit here in this courtroom today, under the law, you are presumed innocent. Your refusal to testify at any point in any proceeding will not be used against you in determining whether you are guilty or not guilty. Counsel, let me just inquire as to whether there are any other items that the court should address before we conclude this preliminary hearing.
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Well, I do have one piece of information to convey to the court. There was a development yesterday afternoon that makes it necessary for our office to have alternate counsel appointed, and arrangements have already been made in that regard. I've already explained that to Mr. Gray, and alternate counsel will be appointed by the end of the day today.
I have no idea what that is. It could be that maybe the public defender or somebody in the office is connected to the school or kids or victims. Maybe it has something to do with the dad's case. I don't know what it is, but They're appointing alternate counsel, which probably is like conflict counsel. We've talked about that before, how sometimes the entire public defender's office can't represent somebody for some reason or another.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Donna C. Graves. All right. Then with that, this hearing is concluded.
All right. So that's the end of the hearing. I'm going to hit a couple questions here before we go on. Isn't it already illegal to purchase a firearm for a minor? I thought it was a law in every state to buy a gun until 18 or 21, depending on the type of gun. I don't think that's correct. I think it is legal in a lot of states to do this. Maybe, certain locks or certain possession or what they can do or whatever with it. But I don't think it's just straight up illegal across the board. But those laws can change all the time. So I'm not positive. But I think the answer to that is no. Possess equals supervised, or possess equals have access to. So I'm going to combine this question, Kevin, with Sean's question. What do you mean by possess and buy? Like, are we talking about buy and secure and let them use supervised, or set loose into society? So again, I ask questions sometimes specifically vaguely just to see what you guys will say, right? To see if you just automatically say yes, no, unsure, whatever it may be, because there are always finer details as you go down, especially with 7,000 of us in here. If all of us were like, well, let's add this, or let's add that, or what about this, or what about that? You can imagine a bunch of lawyers getting together to write laws. That's what happens. And we really dig down to try to figure out what it means. And I'm just trying to figure out how much access you think minors should have to them at all, right? And I don't know how many people would say unsupervised, but I guess we can do that one as the next one. Should minors, or should it be illegal? I don't know. I think I know the answer to that one, so we'll just hold on. Heather said, I taught my kids to shoot. They never had unsupervised access, trigger, locks, and safes. And I think we're starting to hear and get to, let's throw up the poll, Kelsey, just because I think it'll kind of make my point even more. Should minors have unfettered access to firearms? Should minors have unfettered access to firearms? I assume I know the answer to that. And I think as we talk and as we see, you'll see kind of as a chat, a large percentage would think that there's got to be some more protections when it comes to minors and firearms. Karen, Texas says, Peter, this also is about a mother's addiction. She had threatened to kill Colt. I am not defending this shooting. So a lot of people involved, a lot of people, potentially culpable, but it is hard to figure out where to draw lines, right? If a kid was mean to him at some point, should they be at fault? If somebody is in jail for abusing somebody and that person becomes, commits crimes like this, should they be at fault for this as well? Like, where do you draw lines on stuff like this? Is it just the parents? Is it just family members? Just teachers? Those are the open questions that, are still being discussed. Areo, if it's going to be illegal to have a firearm under lock and key, how would that law be enforced? Would it be a part of other charges? It's a good question. And then how do we deal with home security, right? Are we making it easier for robbers to do things? How much longer does it take to get something out of lock and key than just to pull it, outside your bed or wherever people hide things? And then obviously comparing that with carry concealed. How do you deal with that? Lisa, discussion is about guns. However, what's your opinion about kids' access to social media? In my opinion, take that away and there will be less shooting. Honestly, this is another one where, I don't want the government to tell me what to do, but I wish my kids never had social media. I'm going to hold off on that as absolutely long as possible. I think it is, I'm not going to say more dangerous than one thing or another, but miserably dangerous, I'll just say. I think social media is miserably dangerous. Another aspect I've been considering, imagine you're a troubled kid who hates your parents and see this as a way to take your dad down with you. So I saw other people commenting this in the chat, so you're not alone, Caitlin. I mean, the layers to this, it's real. Dr. Bob said, lock and key, it depends. Home defense, if my wife and I are not there, let's ask, they are 16, someone hard R breaks in, who gets there faster? Bob, and these are the real things we have to discuss that are uncomfortable in situations like this. And I get why people don't like it. I think there was a question. Yeah, Rebecca. So being devil's advocate, taking these polls right now, Peter, I feel there's going to be a knee-jerk reaction to what happened. I agree 100%. That's why I wanted to do it now. I wanted to see how high the polls were right now. Because I think they're at their heights after moments like this. But that's why I think comments like Dr. Bob's are important to make sure we still think about even in difficult times like this. Okay, let's now take a look at the next video, which is the dad's hearing. And let's take a listen to what the dad is charged with and what he could be looking at.
Also let you know about a preliminary hearing that's been scheduled for you.
By the way, the poll right now is 95% think minors should not have unfettered access to firearms, which is what I figured. And again, we're kind of working towards, even some people want it completely banned, and I understand that, but just kind of in the focus of this discussion, that what can we do to have more protections around people that'll be around people, or minors that will be around other minors that have access to firearms, right? Because we know kids are generally stupid. I was a kid, I was stupid. Brains are underdeveloped. You'll do things you would not do as an adult. So obviously more protections need to put in place. And that's not rocket science. That's why they can't vote and drive and smoke and drink or buy a house, right? There's a lot of things kids can't do. But how far should those protections go?
Why don't you just state your name, please? All right, pull the microphone down, please. There you go. All right, and how old are you, Mr. Gray?
54.
And are you able to read and write and understand the English language without any difficulty?
Yes, sir.
How far did you go in school?
11th grade GED.
Okay. And I note that you have counsel seated with you at the table. You understand that you have the right to be represented by an attorney at all times for this and all future proceedings in your case?
Yes, sir.
And you understand that, of course, if you cannot afford an attorney, that the public defender will be appointed to represent you upon your request?
Yes, sir.
All right. And counsel, would you identify yourself, please, for the record?
Donna Seagraves. We are going to have new counsel assigned to Mr. Gray later today.
All right. Thank you. All right. Okay. Sorry. All right. So the following aren't questions that I'm going to ask. I'm just informing you of some things. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you at further hearings or at a trial on the charges that you're facing. For this hearing, you're not going to be questioned about facts and circumstances surrounding your charges. You are currently charged with, and you'll be provided with copies of the warrants if you don't already have them. You're currently charged with 2 counts of felony murder in the second degree. You're charged with 4 counts of felony involuntary manslaughter. You're charged with 8 counts of felony cruelty to children in the second degree. Now, for these offenses, for the felony murder counts, in the second degree, felony murder in the second degree, the maximum penalty for each count is up to 30 years imprisonment. For felony involuntary manslaughter, of course, again, there are 4 counts. The maximum penalty for each of those offenses is 10 years imprisonment. For the 8 felony cruelty to children counts, the maximum penalty under the law for each of those 8 counts is 10 years imprisonment, for a maximum total possible penalty for the charges that you currently are facing of 180 years imprisonment. If you have questions about these charges, which I assume that you will, the court urges you to discuss those with your attorney. Let me inquire as to whether there's a motion for bond if Mr. Gray is moving for bond at this time.
No, sir, not at this time. We will allow alternate counsel to make that decision.
All right, thank you. I also need to inform you that you have the right to an indictment by a grand jury, and you also have the right to a preliminary hearing unless you make bond or waive such a hearing. You have the right to a speedy and public trial by a judge or jury. You have the right to confront and cross-examine all witnesses. You have the right to call witnesses on your own behalf and testify in your own defense if you so choose.
So just what he's doing right now is explaining what his rights are, things like that. Rudoka, need to poll how many U.S. versus non-U.S. viewers. I think that's a great, they're not ruining the poll results, but affecting the poll results potentially. Why don't you throw that up, Kelsey? U.S. versus non-U.S. Where are you from? U.S. versus non-U.S. Because, I mean, it is like people say it's an American thing, Americans and their guns and things like that, you know? Ann said the next thing that should be changed is the mental health services, as there's clearly something wrong with this child. Charging the parents is only a start. I mean, we talked about this a lot with Crumbly, the mental health crisis and dealing with that, but not, putting some kind of stigma on people at the same time, but letting them get help or encouraging them to get help. It's tough. It's really, really tough. Allie said, should families with minors have family gun licenses? I think that's interesting. There's all sorts, and then it is interesting to people because a lot of people might have, they're like, oh, license for this, license for that. It's like, I don't want the government to know. It's like, well, we all have driver's license, right? And the government knows all of us with that. Scout said, Peter, I think you might want to look up the term hard R means because I have a feeling you wouldn't want to use it. It's racist. I thought it was robber. I thought they said somebody came in their house, robber. I'll have to look. With the context. Okay. Yeah. Thanks a lot for whoever wrote that. Yeah. Sorry. I did not. I was by the way, I read these comments so fast. I get tons of them and try to answer as many questions as possible. So it is possible to slip things by me like that. Thank you so much, Scout, for pointing that out. Yes. I thought it meant robber. In my mind, that's what it did mean. Okay. For everybody listening. Thank you for pointing that out. My votes are not because of the shooting. I voted by common sense. Oh, I'm not saying it's just because of that at all, but I mean, even myself, I'll say, as I vacillate, where on this spectrum I am, it's affected every time something like this happens. Somebody else said there was another school shooting today. Should parents be charged for not locking up their liquor? So they can be, there are certain criminal charges. It wouldn't specifically be the same as this. There are definitely civil liability. Somebody else said something. If a parent serves alcohol to minors and then they unalive someone while drunk driving, the parent is held liable. This is no different in my opinion. Whether that is a deterrent to other parents is irrelevant. So very rarely would they ever be charged with second degree M like this, right? And that's the point. I think that's why this is a discussion, is because civilly, yes, the parents have this kind of liability all the time. Is this negligence? Should they have done more? Could they have done more? But turning it into, certain kinds of crimes, it's definitely had an uptick recently. I'll just say. Zero said, how exactly do you enforce having guns locked? That's tough. I mean, I think you can have like a key card or beep, 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 punch in and out. So you can see every time it's locked and unlocked. You don't necessarily know that the firearm's in there. But maybe just somebody owns the lock and has the lock and whatever, but in Crumbly they had it, but it was still in the bag. If it would have been opened up and looked like it had been used, but Ethan found the key, that could be different. All these are details that's the point of what makes every set of circumstances different. And again, we're going to get to some details in this case that I think are very specific to this case. All right. So the U.S. is 82% of the crowd right now. Non-U.S. is 18%. So majority is from the U.S. Let's listen to the rest of this hearing.
I want to make it clear to you, Mr. Gray, that you are presumed innocent. Your refusal to testify at any point cannot be used against you in determining whether you are guilty or not guilty. I mentioned the first appearance hearing a moment ago. That is being set for you for December 4th, 2024 at 8:30 a.m. Currently, that's set to take place in the Magistrate Court of Barrow County. It could be subject to change, but I just want you to know that that is the date that we currently have. In fact, counsel, could you approach, please? I have this, let's see, I need to scratch this out. This document that discusses bond and gives the date of the preliminary hearing, and I guess I could sign that and you can just get a copy of it. And then the warrants are attached to that. So I would like for him to sign it. Turn it on, please.
do love a lot of these ideas you guys are putting, and I'm reading a lot of these comments, and it's interesting to see, how so many are similar. Obviously there's going to be little differences here and there, and it's interesting to think about, what could be done better.
You're getting a copy of this. He is giving you a copy. He's going to give you a copy of all the ones. Do you want me to go ahead and give him his copy?
Yes, please.
And the page continues.
We're just going over the documents here.
Provided, and they say
And are these his copies of the warrants?
those are provided, and they say service copies on them, so I assume that they're for him.
Okay.
Sergeant Briscoe, do you concur with that? Is that what those copies are for?
That's the detention center.
Those are for the detention center? So he's got his own copies, or he'll have them provided? All right, so the detention center wants to hold on to those. All right, let me, and thank you, Ms. Seagraves. I want to certainly acknowledge the presence of our district attorney, Mr. Brad Smith. He's assisted by his chief assistant, Patricia Brooks. Is there anything else, counsel, that the court needs to address that I have neglected to address?
No, Your Honor.
No, sir, not at this time.
All right. I do want to thank those who are in the gallery who have an interest and who have appeared. I appreciate the decorum that has been maintained throughout this proceeding, or both of these proceedings today. And with that, this matter is adjourned.
All right. So that's what the dad is charged with and what he's looking at. So now let's see which order I want to do this. Let's take a look at the charges here first. We'll start with this one. I think he was charged with 8 counts of this, 8 or 9 counts of cruelty to children. So let's take a look at cruelty to children in Georgia. A parent or guardian or other person supervising the welfare of or having immediate charge or custody of a child under the age of 18 commits the offense of cruelty to children in the first degree when such person willfully deprives the child of necessary sustenance to the extent the child's health or well-being is jeopardized. Not what we have here. But now let's look at the rest of them. Any person who commits the offense of cruelty to children in the first degree when such person maliciously causes a child under the age of 18 cruel or excessive physical or mental pain. Okay, that could fit. Any person commits the offense of cruelty to children in the second degree when such person with criminal negligence causes a child under the age of 18 cruel or excessive physical or mental pain. Okay. Any person commits an offense of cruelty to children in the third degree when such a person who is the primary aggressor intentionally allows a child under the age of 18 to witness the commission of a forcible felony, battery, or family violence battery, or such person who is the primary aggressor having knowledge that a child under the age of 18 is present and sees or hears the act, commits a forcible felony, battery, or family violence battery. The person convicted of the offense of cruelty to children in the first degree, as provided in the code section, shall be punished by imprisonment of not less than 5 years, not more than 20. Person convicted of the offense of cruelty to children in the second degree shall be punished by imprisonment for not less than 1, no more than 10 years. And we're going to stop there because I think that's kind of the one that they're going with here is the second degree cruelty to children. It is a felony. Okay. And that's important with the context of, now we're going to look at the murder statutes here. A person commits the offense of M when he unlawfully and with malice aforethought, either express or implied, causes the death of another human being. That's not what the dad's charged with. Express malice is that deliberate intention unlawfully to take the life of another human being, which is manifested by external circumstances capable of proof. Malice shall be implied where no considerable provocation appears and where all the circumstances of the killing show an abandonment of malignant heart and malignant heart. A person commits the offense of murder when in the commission of a felony, this is felony murder, he or she causes the death of another human being irrespective of malice. So that cruelty to children is a felony. And I think, again, I don't know, This is just kind of surmising and guessing based on the context that we have. So we'll find out when we get the actual charging documents. I don't have them yet. If you guys have them, send them to me on Twitter, Instagram, at Lawyer You Know on Twitter, and at Tragos Law on Instagram, and I'll check them out. And if you guys want more on this, I know sometimes these topics can be tough and maybe people don't want more videos on this or more breakdowns of the legal aspects. But if you do, hit the like button on the video now and let me know in the chat if you do want to continue following this. D is a person commits offense of murder in the second degree when literally in the commission of cruelty to children in the second degree, he or she causes the death of another human being, irrespective of malice. It's like they wrote this in for circumstances such as these. Convicted of first degree, imprisonable by life without parole, death, or imprisonment for life. Second degree, for not less than 10, no more than 30 years, which is what the dad is looking at, 10 to 30 years per count. And I believe there was 2 counts of this. So if they really wanted to, they could pile them on top and then pile them on top of the other cruelty to children counts. So now you kind of understand how they get to second degree, how they get to felony M, or just get second degree because of the cruelty to children in the second degree, which is causing serious bodily harm to another by a criminally negligent act, which is what they're going to try to prove here. All right, before we get to this article to finish, let me answer a couple more questions. Pauline, I'm afraid we're opening Pandora's box, charging parents. Where will it stop? Charge a wife for the crime of a husband. This scares me. I agree 100%. I hate the slippery slope. I hate extending things further than they need to go, which is why I'm a hard proponent of a case-by-case basis and not a bright line rule that just every parent is automatically charged and convicted of this stuff. But the details we're about to talk about are what make this case specific. I saw some comments on X about him rocking back and forward thoughts. He also sounded miserable. I can't imagine what he's going through. It's got to be horrible. Either, feeling guilty himself or realizing your son is the one that did this. I can't imagine. Since Columbine, 500 deaths in school shootings, according to Google. So Evil Queen, my dad and I were talking about this, and it'd be interesting to see how the kids that survived and the families that survived are doing, all this time later in the prior ones, because it affects so much more than just the people who lose their life. Rebecca, Peter, thank you for being so respectful and open-minded. Best community chat, which is why I do this. And she goes the ... before gifting 10 memberships. Thank you, Rebecca. All right, I'm going to get to some articles here, but first I want to throw these chats up. Cheryl said, I can't say I feel for the dad. The FBI talked to him about his son earlier this year. He said there were guns, but the son couldn't access them. And then Miri said, when will the FBI principal guidance counselor Moore come out and explain what they did, knowing last year that he was troubled? This will continue to happen if no one follows up on troubled kids. So with that context and those comments, I'm going to bring up this article, and these are the details I mentioned earlier that, obviously I can't confirm, but they are out there, and there's a lot of them. I've even heard people say that there are documents and recordings about this, and if that's the case, I'd love to see them. It just kind of goes through some of the details. 2 students and 2 teachers passed. 14-year-old suspect arrested, father arrested, charged, gave his son an AR-15 rifle as a gift to law enforcement, sources say. It's, unclear when this gift was given. The suspect was a new student at the high school, only had been there for a partial day, which again would make you think it has nothing to do with anybody specific. There was no specific target. Georgia Bureau of Investigations identified that these are the victims. And I know some people said earlier, pause for a moment of silence or prayers for this family. And we'll do that at the very end of the video. All right, I kind of want to go to, so these are the victims again that we'll be remembering at the end. So the mother of the school shooter had been suspected on family violence count, arrested on family violence count last year. Some people were bringing those details in, troubled home life. Father bought it as a gift. We have that. All right. So here's some of the details I want to talk about. The FBI said it received tips about online threats to commit a school shooting in May of 2023, and that Jackson County Sheriff's Office investigated the Grays. When investigators interviewed the 13-year-old suspect last year about the online threats, he denied them. The FBI and sheriff's office said in a statement, the father stated he had hunting guns in the house, but the subject did not have unsupervised access to them. So this is the important details that I think are going to be important for us to dig into to determine, is this a case where this makes sense? And in my opinion, if we start to build evidence and facts, right now they're presumed innocent. We don't know if these details are true. But this is why Pandora's box, slippery slope, all that stuff is a conversation where we need more details to determine that. But if it's true that he was either suspected of, confirmed, or made these threats in May of 23, father purchases an AR for him, continues to let him use firearms, he at least has some sort of unfettered access to them, and then he does this. Dad says he doesn't have access. What is dad doing to prevent him? That's a question, right? Are they under lock and key? Did he break into the gun safe? Did he know them? Was it his? Was it at his room? Could he do whatever he wanted for it? All of that being very important for the details of this case. But if his dad knew he was troubled, knew he made threats like this, then purchased the firearm, taught him how to use it, gave him unfettered access, you can start to see where this case is not just parents automatically getting arrested for what their kids do. And that's why I think it's important to wait and see how the facts come out. Why are the charges so much more serious than when they were in Crumbly? Allison, I think it has to do with some of these details. And we'll see. Let me see if there's anything else. Just came after Crumbly. His charges are directly connected to the crimes of his son. Okay, we heard that. And other injured victims have been released from the hospital, thank God. I'm going to run through some more comments here in a second. There was something else I was just going to say. Lost my train of thought there. Laura said in Arizona, you need a fishing license, but not one for a gun. Katie said, in my opinion, if you buy a firearm and don't lock it up or keep it away from kids in the house, you're willfully taking responsibility for what happens. Peds psych is my specialty. Mental health care doesn't start young enough, nor is there enough access to age-appropriate mental health care. Paw Printed Heart said, this is not popular. I have the Second Amendment. However, it is my responsibility to teach my kids right from wrong and to keep guns out of my kids' hands. So so when we were talking about social media, I don't think I said this, but this is something that I think between a parent and their kids. And I think social media can be really dangerous as well. I know people are going to say not as dangerous as a firearm, but we've seen cases where, the girl, I think it was in Florida, who was texting her boyfriend, like, yes, do it, end your own life. And she got charged and convicted of that. It wasn't social media, but text messaging, bullying, things like that. Love when I catch you live. Hey, Peter, from the Emerald Isle. Wish I was playing golf there. Wish I was playing more golf generally. I'm a proponent of the Second Amendment. Everyone should be entitled to own a musket, different from an AR. But yeah, I am too. I'm a proponent for all of our rights. Like I said, right? All of our rights. The FBI has a responsibility for this too. FBI met with this kid and his dad because he wrote the exact threats online about a year ago. The dad is also at fault because he bought him the AR after the meeting with the FBI. Again, some of these details, I want to see how they come out, see how they're presented. What are the reliable details and facts in this case? I think that's really important, but I agree. It doesn't look good so far. It seems like there's a lot for us still to learn, to where, like, I'm sorry, but if you know your kid has these kinds of thoughts and issues, then buying them a firearm, showing them how to use it, all that stuff. I mean, I think it changes. Then, we go hunting as a family once a year. It's just all very different. And I think we've got to figure this stuff out. I can see a defense for the dad if he can show his kid denied, he believed him, he hunted together all the time, showed safety, never saw the kid was struggling. I could see a GA jury relating to this not guilty. Not just that, it's like the FBI, I think, determined that it was unfounded, that the threats were unfounded. There wasn't enough details to actually do anything about it. So if it was good enough for the FBI, why not for the father? What does the father know? What do the text messages and journals and things like that show, like we saw in Crumbly? Because it's going to be similarly prosecuted. If parents aren't legally responsible, who are? I mean, definitely the shooter is. If he had the guns locked up, will he still be in trouble? The dad, I don't know. Seems like most people in the chat think he still should be. Those are all details I'm interested in. Did he only let him use it when it was supervised? Was it always locked up? Did he not have a key? Did he not know the combination? Can he prove he locked it? Those are all questions that are still unanswered, in my opinion. Ace Man says, I own firearms I've purchased for my teens of their own. I would never give them unfettered access until they are adults. And then once they're adults, if they still live with you and you bought it and you give them unfettered access, do we draw the line there? If you're the reason they have the firearm and you should be the protector of the firearm. These are the questions that I think these cases ask. But I get it, Ace Man, and I feel like that's where a lot of the chat is going, in some kind of balance like that. Can we get a Discord case from this Discord room for this case, please? Kelsey and John, can you put that on the list? TJ said, I'm a proponent of the First Amendment. All media should write with quill and ink on hemp paper. LOL. You guys are smart. I like it. This is why this conversation is open, right? I'm never going to tell you, we can't have a conversation or discuss things, right? Even if I disagree, even if the chat disagrees, this is an open forum for conversation. Save till the end. Off topic. If a lawyer enters a case as pro bono and gets money from the state, can he still collect attorney's fees from the client as well? So if you assert that it's pro bono and you turn it into the bar as pro bono, you cannot collect fees on it. There are certain circumstances where you can get paid from the state and then get supplemented from the client, but there are certain rules and they're different in every jurisdiction of how to handle that. It is not how you're supposed to have it get funded by the state or call it pro bono and also be getting paid from the client, because you have to fill out certain things that the client is not paying in order to get those state funds or, assert that it's pro bono. But there are certain circumstances where it's like they can supplement it, especially in certain cases, but it's an it depends answer, unfortunately. Okay. That's all we got. Like I said, this is a really tough one. If you want more on it, or if you enjoyed this or learned something from this, please hit the like button so anybody else interested in this case will come and take a look at it. Sure, why not? Should all guns be illegal? Kelsey, put that up. Let's just see what the chat says about this one. Should all guns be illegal? Throw that chat up there on our way out. And you guys still stay here and vote as I play the outro. What we're going to do is we'll do the outro, moment of silence, and then I will take a look at the poll results after the outro. Just my thought, but I really think we need to think out of the box. I'm a Canadian who now lives in Alaska. It's about maternity leave. Let's give time for human bonds. I like the outside the box. And this I think is in the mental health game, and that's an important one. Netwoman, how was the investigation done so fast without the father to file charge? Done so fast with the father to file charges? I think they probably had a lot of that FBI investigation. And I heard there's recordings of it. So if anybody finds it, send it to me, because I'd love to look at it. It's a great question, Netwoman. Or did the son spill his guts? I don't know. But all right, let's now throw that poll up, Kelsey, and I'm going to take a look at the results after the moment of silence, after the outro. So thank you, everybody, for joining me. Until next time, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast with new seasons dropping every quarter. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, The Lawyer You Know. It really is, tragic to deal with cases like this. And I hate that we have to talk about them, but when there are questions around them, especially legally speaking, I think that it's worth talking about personally. That's my opinion on it. So I appreciate you guys all joining me. Should all guns be illegal? 82% say no, 18% say yes. That's almost exactly the split of US versus non-US. That's an easy no for me, that all guns should not be illegal. Heck no. We have gone too far, in my opinion, on where we came from and how we got here, and people being able to protect themselves, especially home protection, castle doctrine, self-defense, things like that, my opinion. But I think there's a lot of discussion around it. That's an easy no for me. Should be an easy no, I think, but worth a thought and a discussion to see where people are. And what's interesting is this 80-20 split was a lot of times on some kind of, I don't want to say a buzzword like gun control or regulation or whatever, but just it's interesting to me to have these conversations with you guys. I appreciate you that have an open mind and are able to discuss this stuff. I actually do have to play the outro one more time just so we can put tiles and stuff on it for it to link to other videos, I think. So I'm going to hit it one more time, but you guys feel free to leave and hit that like button one more time if you haven't. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast with new seasons dropping every quarter. If you have a pase you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, The Lawyer You Know.